Well, I'm just back from the shopping mall, all dressed up, nothing to buy. But I've got an idea. This Christmas, I think we'll make a Christmas gift out of what I have in the shop. I'm currently working on a Spalted Pecan dresser, and I've got a piece of wood that, although interesting, has no place. It's just too small. But what I'm thinking of is just about the right size for it. Let's go inside and see what we can make work. I'll see you there. I'm Roby Price, and welcome to my garage workshop. In this series, we're building a Spalted Pecan dresser. Let's build a pen tray using the Shaper Origin. Well, we're up here in the study, and I've got the file set up for what I want my pen display tray to look like. It's really not much more than a simple ellipse. I've got an inside, an outside, and a divot. And the file is an SVG format. And Inkscape, a free program, is particularly good at that. And if this is something you want to do, I encourage you to look at Inkscape. I think it may fit your needs, and it's certainly the right price. It's open source. It's free. So take a look. There's a lot that goes on up here that you don't see in the garage. Even though we're not working with the Shaper Origin, we still have to put together spreadsheets and bills of materials for all the projects that we produce in the garage. And finally, we got to stitch together these videos, which is another story all unto itself. But for now, I have uploaded this file to the web, and when we go downstairs, we'll take that file and we'll download it into the machine, and then we'll get started. Well, this is what we have to work with. It is not much to look at up front, but what it does have going for it is it's got a bit of spalt, and I'm hoping what I can do is clean up one side and the spalt will stay. I have noticed that this spalt it can be surface oriented, so we don't know what we've got quite yet. And we won't know until we take a pass or two. So the first thing I'm going to do is take it to the jointer, and I'm going to get one face plain flat, and that may be, and one edge, and that may be where it stops, because with one edge flat, then I can start machining from the top with the Shaper Origin, which is going to be our tool of choice. Well, the jointer made quick work on the back side and further illustrated how much character this board has. On the other side, the rough side, I have placed one of the templates for my pen tray, and that will give me a guide on where to cut this out on the bandsaw. I'm set up over here with a 1/4-inch blade, and we will cut these out one at a time. Once we get to the Shaper Origin, we will freeform the overall placement, but once it's placed, it's permanent. So I'm not really worried about keeping a square edge on this. I'm trying to get the most out of this material. Well, my templates are cut out, and they look pretty good. And the Shaper Origin is going to be a router bit that cuts out the top, and I have to have a way to mount this on a surface. So what I'm going to do is take some scrap that I've got here, and I'm going to glue this to that surface. And that'll give me a good bond, and then I'll put a screw here and a screw here, a pocket hole screw, and that will hold it down to the platform that I'm using on my jig. All this will become very apparent as soon as you see it. But in the meantime, I've got to put the holes in on these blanks so that they index correctly each time. So what I've done on my drill press is I've put a stop here, which I will make a hole here in this side. I will remove this stop because I can't drop the drill bit with this flipped up, and then use this for the second hole on the other side. That guarantees a consistent spacing for all the blanks. Well, this is the blank that we machined over there, and I have taken the time to countersink these. I'm going to be dropping that bit down when I've shaped these things all the way to the base here, and that router bit contacts a screw. That router bit's not going to win, and neither am I. So what I'm going to do now is I've got my glue. Here it is. I don't need a whole lot. Keep in mind, I need this to stay for a short period of time. So I'll put it on there, rub it around a little bit. This blank is sacrificial. So all I'm looking to do is to get it located in place and let it tack up. As soon as it tacks up, I'll put it in the clamps, but then I'll give it a couple hours, let it dry, and it should be ready to go. So I've got about 5 more of these. I got a little bit more out of my material. So I have about 5 more of these to place and a couple hours to cook, and then we're going to be over at the Shaper Origin starting to get set up to cut these out. Well, while we're waiting for the glue to tack up on our blanks, I want to show you a little bit about my workstation here for my Shaper Origin. And this is not the store-bought version. This is one I made myself. And the reason for doing that is to learn how to use the machine. This is the first thing I built when I was starting out, so I thought that this would be a good way, a good orientation. I'm not going to go into the details here, but I'm going to show you a little bit about the philosophy on how we're trying to produce this workflow. Part of this unit is this jig right here, and this jig actually sits into a couple of screws. I'm going to put one of these in place, enough to get it started. Bear with me here, because these things never cooperate. It did better than most. Now what this does, it allows me to do, is to raise the platform to a certain height. So what I will do is I will raise this high enough, and then I will secure my blank to this platform, and from there I can cut it. And my Shaper Origin will be level against this surface. This field up here is what it focuses on to tell it where it is when it moves. So this is the workflow that I've got in mind, and there's a whole host of other things, other applications that you can use for this particular setup here, and I won't go into those, but I wanted you to see this because the next thing you see is going to be coming in the other way when I actually start cutting these things. So we've still got some more time for this glue to dry. I'm going to continue to get my Shaper Origin set up. And if you want to know more about that, I encourage you to go to the website. They'll be happy to tell you everything about it and sell you one. But right now, I'm just going to get mine set up and ready to go while I wait for that glue to dry. I have my blanks with pre-installed holes for the pocket hole screws, and I will drill those in just enough for a small point to come through on the other side. That will help me get the position for the indexing holes that you see in front of you. It is important to know the total depth between the surface of the workstation and your blank. This input will let you know where the bottom of the bit is with relation to the bottom of your pen tray. It'll also keep you from cutting through. I'm removing the motor from the Shaper Origin in order to change out the bit. I currently have a beading bit that I use as a roundover, and changing out the bit is relatively simple. The spindle comes with a self-lock which requires a little bit of pressure, and the wrench unlocks the collet. From there, it's pretty much as simple as changing out the bit in any router. The bit that I'm installing is a 1/4 inch spiral bit, and it's an older bit, but I'm using it to hog out a lot of material. I typically use a finer bit for the finish surface. When you install your bit, make sure you've got enough room to reach the bottom. Otherwise, you're going to have to reset that bit. Well, we need to scan the field. And in scanning the field, the shaper origin actually records where all the dominoes or the shapes that you see in front of you are with regard to the field. And it will take a photographic image, and based on what it sees after it takes the scan, it knows exactly where the bit is. Once the entire field has been scanned, record it. The shaper origin will process the image, and then you'll be able to see where you are through the view screen while you're cutting. To connect to the Wi-Fi, you need to navigate to the settings pane, and from there find the Wi-Fi settings and select your router. You'll have to enter in your password and username, but from there it's pretty simple. The shaper origin will log right into the site. Go to the Design main section and then the Import subsection to get to your file structure on the hub. From there you can download your file. Once the file is uploaded, I place the image over top my wood blank. I'm looking to make sure that the perimeter is within the boundaries of the wood that I'm going to be shaping, and it looks like it is right now. So once I'm happy with it, I will place the image, and that will freeze it in the workspace. The basic parameters are input in, but now we have to get ourselves ready to cut. So we go to the main menu and select Cut, and then I like to set the bit diameter, in this case 1/4 of an inch. After that we have to Z-touch, and what that does is it indexes the shaper origin's Z-axis. So now it knows what depth it is at all times. After that, we need to go ahead and set where we want our bit to cut, in this case the outside of the line selected. And we have to have an offset. An offset can be 0 or any number of other numbers. We're going to choose 0.05. That means that the outside of the bit will be 0.05 inches away from the line we're cutting to. Finally, we have to set the bit depth. We're going to cut 1/8 of an inch deep. I have my dust collection and my electrical supported from above on a chain, so it does not influence the router's path. And now I'm ready to go. It's just a matter of following the line. The shaper origin will make slight adjustments as long as you're within the circle. And it produces a clean cut. At 1/8 of an inch, there's going to be a lot of cutting. Well, the work at the shaper origin is done, and these bases have served us well. It gave us a really firm foundation for doing what we needed to do. But we need to remove them because we've got a few more things we have to accomplish. So I'm at the bandsaw, and I'm set up just a little bit proud of the thickness of my base material, and we're just going to flat cut it off. Well, I'm over here at my sander, and I just want to smooth out some of the rough edges before I hit it with the finer grits. I'm going to take this up to about 180. I've got 120 here in the belt sander, and I'm just going to touch on this. I don't need to be very aggressive here at all. I always find it amazing that your hands and your fingers can tell you more about a smooth, regular surface than anything else. Trust them. They'll tell you when it's finished. Also, we need to pay attention to the bottom. The bandsaw is not the best at producing a good, clean, flat surface. Well, we're starting to apply some finish, and these type projects are always difficult to try to figure out what is the best way to apply the finish. We're using a waterlox, inside or outside. We're using a waterlox, and this will get 3 coats, will not require sanding, and it will need 24 hours for each coat to dry. It'll produce a satin sheen, which I think is probably appropriate for this type of project. And you can see the grain is just absolutely exploding on this piece. And let's face it, there's no way around it. It is going to be messy. So we will apply the first coat and let this cook overnight. And I'm not going to put you through the other 2, so I will see you in a couple of days. Well, I'm reading a few Christmas cards by the fireside and thinking about painting a few of my own. And it seems to me that if somebody's important, you wouldn't use a Bic. You would use an important pen, something special to commemorate the occasion. And I have such a pen. This one was a gift, and I like it a lot. And I like to display it. And you can't just put it on the desk. You need to put it someplace where people will notice it. And that's what we've been doing. We've been building pen trays. And there's one. And here are its brothers. There are 3 more. Each very different, each with its own character, but all cut from the same board within inches of one another. And I tell you, you just can't beat Spalted Pecan. So if you have a desire to build one, I think at this point you know how. If not, you can buy one from me. I'll let you decide. But whatever you decide to do, I hope I see you tomorrow in the workshop.